There I am. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for your punctuality. Punctuality? Punctionality. Yep. For being early. There's
Good
been time.
evening.
Again.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Yeah. Yeah. So my army background is like, 15 minutes early or you're late. So I appreciate on timeness for sure. All right. So let's do this thing. So this is my favorite week of module one. Bootstrap is just it's just amazing. I love it. A lot of people people don't hate it. People think it's old and uh, I don't know, not as fancy as some of the design stuff you can do, but I love it. I don't know, makes everything better. So you'll see as we go. Let me move this thing over here. Okay. All right, so we'll go over this. This isn't extremely long. We should have plenty of time to actually get some code written out. And I'll repeat some of the stuff that I said leading up to this so y'all can hear it again. First though, questions. Any questions about the homework, about the little bit you saw about Bootstrap? Anything?
I'm still catching up after being sick, so I'm
Okay.
still working on it.
Okay, no worries. Anything else? All good? Okay. So we learned about responsive design and how, so I'll move back over here so I'm talking to you. How we wanted to develop our pages mobile first, right? Because majority of the time people are a lot of time be on the phone and then moving up from there, right? So we want our applications or our websites to be accessible on any size screen. And you don't want to get and there's sites like that where you'll get on a mobile site and you'll be like, holy crap, I can't do anything here because it was built for desktop. And then they were like, well, I mean, it's a browser, maybe it'll be okay. So we want to have that mobile first mentality where when we build for the smallest screen and then move up because it's way easier than going big and then going down and taking stuff away. So I want to keep that in mind. What Bootstrap does for us is all that CSS that we would have to write with the media queries and all of that stuff, and even with the Flexbox classes and things, it wraps that all up nice and tight in a little library for us. That it's a library with pre-built classes for layouts, components, utilities. And it has a JavaScript angle to it as well, which allows for the functionality, like the menu button that'll, expand out or whatever. But majority of it is CSS and it's just classes, right? So we know what classes are. We've written classes in CSS. This, like I said, it packages it up and it lets you use it and makes development a lot faster and allows you to build things that would take you a while easier and faster. So being that it's a library, you do have to take some of its opinions. You have to it's opinionated. So you have to say, okay, this is what I can get out of it. And then you can modify it yourself, but you have to at least take that initial opinionation, if that's a word. I don't know. And as we go through and get deeper into JavaScript and things, you'll kind of see how some of the libraries and packages we use are very opinionated, and some are just like, hey, it's okay, you can kind of do what you want. We'll give you this little thing to build on it. So as far as Bootstrap goes, what we have here, it's fast for prototyping. So just if you want to get a UI out real quick, UI user interface. It helps with that. So you don't have this giant CSS style sheet with all this custom stuff in it. It's responsive by default, which is one of the reasons that I really, really like it, is that everything you do with it, it's set up to look great on mobile, look great on desktop, everywhere in between. It's consistent styling. So there's a Bootstrap style that you'll hear people talk about, which can be very boxy. I like boxes, so it's cool with me. Some people, they want more stuff. Which you can do. You can modify it however you need to. But it does out of the box, it is kind of boxy. That was a pun there, I think. There's a huge ecosystem. A lot of people, a lot of systems use it. You could compare it to just escape me. What's the programming language? Starts with P, I think. Jonas or Derek, help me out.
Python.
No, the back end, or well, Python's back end too. That everything was built in for a while. Is it a P? Oh my gosh. This is all going down.
Cobalt.
No, not that bad. It's okay.
No,
PHP. There it is. Yeah. So like 80% of the web was built on PHP for a long time, on the back end, and everybody was like, we hate PHP, we want to do other things. But it was such a good like solid language that a lot of things were built on it. Facebook was built on PHP. I don't know if it still is, but it was. So Bootstrap's kind of one of those things. You'll see it everywhere, even if people are like, it sucks, you're still going to see it everywhere, and it doesn't suck. AI knows it well. So obviously AI has been trained on the internet, and there's a lot of Bootstrap out there. So if you need help in Bootstrap, AI is not going to be like, oh, this is a new thing, I don't know. It's going to know exactly what it is, exactly how to help you to do it. When using a library or framework or package, there's always going to be trade-offs. It is going to add a little bit of bulk to your page. It's tiny, very tiny. Most pages nowadays are, like megabytes or worse. I won't even tell you what ours are at work. It yells at me and says, hey, these are too big. And I'm like, I don't care, do it anyway. So this is very small compared to that. Like I said, sites can look bootstrappy without customization. So may look similar to other things, but I mean, I like it. So, and then there is less control than writing CSS from scratch, because you're going to get that bootstrappy style that if you don't customize it, that's just kind of be the way it looks. Cool. So there's a couple ways you can add Bootstrap to your project. So since it is a library, we have to bring it in, right? Like it just doesn't automatically exist in our code. The easiest way, and the way that you'll do most often, at least in the first 3 modules, is through a CDN. A CDN is a content delivery network. So basically it means the code is hosted somewhere and you're going to use a link tag to bring it in. Okay. And this link tag, you'll notice it looks very similar to our CSS tag, our style sheet tag, except for instead of having href to a file that we have, it has an href to an actual URL. But it is a .css, so it's where this is hosted on that content delivery network. Okay. This JavaScript one is, like I mentioned earlier, to make the buttons active and things like that. We'll bring this in as well. And it's the same thing. It's just a JavaScript file hosted somewhere else that we're bringing in. Just a tad bit on security. There's you're bringing this in from somewhere else. So you got to be cautious of that, because say a bad actor comes in. I love the phrase bad actor. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what they call them. So yeah, if a bad actor comes in and finagles this to kind of sort of look like the right URL, but then it's not, and they give you some bad code, that's not good. So make sure that you are getting this from the source, like getbootstrap.com, and that they didn't do anything weird with it. And that's going to be very important when we come to talking about packages, especially NPM packages, Node Package Manager, because there has been a lot of cases where AI will install a package that doesn't even exist, and then the hackers will kind of get to know that, and they'll create this package and then put a bunch of junk in it. So it is a lot more, well, it's not a lot more important. It is as important as ever to be wary about that kind of stuff. So don't be scared, just be prepared. The other way, bringing it in, which we'll get to this if Derek allows us to, because he and we fight about Bootstrap, but When we get to React and Next and all that, you can bring it in through an npm install, a node package manager. And that's a better way to do it when you're dealing with a framework or something like that. But that'll be down the road. For now, all we got to worry about is our CDN. This is like holy grail, this Bootstrap grid system. Okay. So this is what makes Bootstrap so amazing with the responsiveness. So with Flexbox, we had to do display flex and then flex direction and all of the stuff, which a lot of that is built into here as well, because Bootstrap is technically built on top of that. But it kind of takes away the complications that we were kind of having when we were trying to explain it and figure it out. And it is exactly like an Excel spreadsheet, right? So I think let me see if I have one pulled up here. Okay. Don't worry about what's on here. Sure about the structure. So we have columns, right? So A, B, C, D, E, and we have rows, right? 28, 29, 30. This is exactly what it does to your page. It splits your page up into 12 columns and then as many rows as you want to go. But it does that so that way when you're putting your pieces together, then you can visualize it and actually see, okay, this is exactly where it's going to land. And so in this case, you can see in here that we have just a row. And then within that row, we have two columns that are split 6 and 6. Okay. And so that means on this page, just like here in this demo, we're going to have two columns in this row, half and half. So split 6 and 6 because you have 12 columns in each row. Okay. So it makes it just super simple to be like, okay, I want to put 3 things in this row and I want to be evenly spaced. Okay, I'm going to give each of them a column width of 4. So then I have my 12. The even not cooler, but on top of that, you can break each row into its own sets of columns. So you could have like within this left column 6, you could have 12 columns in there and then have those broken up however you want and just nest it as far as you want. So really it kind of makes this kind of like matrixy thing for your page. So it's very cool. The one I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily, but the one thing you do start to get into with Bootstrap is what we call div soup. And so you'll notice that like all of these are divs. You don't see a paragraph or anything like that. So it doesn't have to be a div, like it could be a paragraph or whatever, but it's kind of the way that it ends up being is that we just have a bunch of divs with rows and columns just kind of going down your page to break everything out. Not a bad thing. It's a lot of divs. All right. So to get those columns, you noticed here that we had this column -6. So this is how you tell it how many columns you want in the row. And again, this is up to 12. So you could have 12 column -1s. You could have a column -3, a column -3, a column -6. However you need to split up your page to get those 12 columns. So that's just kind of telling you just very similar to what I said right there. And then this is what I was saying with the different widths you can do. So like a 4 and an 8 or a 3, 6, and a 3. This 3, 6, and 3 is pretty common for if you have like sidebars. So you have 3 and 3 on each sidebar. And then the call, if you don't put anything, which typically I'm always going to put something, but if you don't, then it's just going to split it evenly like it's shown there. The breakpoints. So when we were doing with the media queries, we were telling it, hey, if it's less than this, show me this, whatever. All you got to do now is just put the small, medium, large, extra large, whatever, to tell it where that breakpoint is. So instead of writing a media query, we can see here that we've got column 12, and then we have a column medium 6, and then a column large 4. So within that same line, we're saying, okay, if you're on an extra small screen, it says here, if extra small, there's none for the class infix. Probably, I don't know what that means, but So there's nothing there. So that means on a extra small screen, this is going to take the whole width of the screen because it's 12 columns. Okay. Once you get to a medium sized screen, so once it gets greater than or equal to 768 pixels, then it's going to split into two sides. So 6 and 6, right? And then once you get to a large screen, so greater than 992, it's going to split into 4. So it's going to be, 1, 2, 3, right? 3 columns of 4. And so that's what this is telling us here. That's what it's going to do. And that's what that's telling us right there. So that's how you can break it up for the different screen sizes by just putting that in. You don't have to write a media query, nothing like that. It's all built in there. Let's see if this will actually change. Well, okay, cool, it did. Oh. All right, so you can see here, let's go to big. So this says column 12. These are what we just looked at. Column 12, column medium 6, column large 4. So we're on a large screen right now, right? And so we have 3 columns that are 4 widths each, right? To make 12. As we shrink our screen down to get to that medium size, you see it jumped down 1. Let's see if it'll. So what it did is medium size, it has 6, and it can't go greater than 12. So it did 6, 6, and then it kicked the other guy down at the bottom. Okay. And then if we continue on to smaller, we're going to have column 12. So we should have all 3 just in a vertical column there. Okay. So that's how those split it up and make the magic happen there. All right. There's the built-in class of container is important. So you're typically going to have a container around all of your code. And it sort of gives you that reset that we talked about before. And it gives you the kind of the basis for the bootstrap magic to happen. So once we start writing this, we're going to have a very kind of solid structure of exactly what it's going to look like each time for the skeleton of it anyway. There's a couple different containers. There's the regular container, which is, like it says, is the max width at each breakpoint. And then the fluid is the full width always. So the regular container, and we'll see this, it kind of has the little kind of margin around. The fluid makes it like the whole screen. There's no like margin on the outsides. And then you can also use those same kind of sizes within the container and tell it, okay, we want it full width until it gets to medium, and then it's going to go with fixed or whatever like that. I don't typically ever do that. It's either container or container fluid, depending on what I'm working on. And like it says here, it's like the container fluid's like the full bleed. So it's going to go all the way to the ends of the page. All right. There's a whole lot of awesome built-in components, like buttons. So these buttons, literally all you got to do is have a button, give it the button class. So each button will have a button class, the BTN, and then tell it what variant of button you want. So this would be button primary, which is the blue one. So it comes automatically with the blue background with the curved edges, with that hover effect on it right there. That comes automatically with the library. There's a secondary, which is the gray one, and then primary is success one here. Or success, sorry, is right there. Danger, outline. And there's a ton more as well. But it just comes with so much. It just makes it so easy. Same with cards. So this card class, it's a little bit more in detail than the button, but it just has a card class here. It's got a card image top, if there was one on there, which there's not right now. And then it's got a card body, everything inside here, card title, card text, and then you use a button at the bottom. So that all makes it just look really good. Oh, okay, that button worked. Okay. And you can then further customize these how you wish. Nav bar is pretty amazing. So with this bit of code here, It makes you just a full nav bar. You can add all sorts of things onto this, like drop downs, search fields, all sorts of stuff with just a couple added extra classes. Has a note here that it does require the Bootstrap JavaScript if you want that hamburger button menu toggle. So I think if we shrink this, we'll see that. Yeah, so if you want this to work, you do have to add that bit of JavaScript, which I would recommend always just adding both of the CDN links because it's just, I mean, you're probably going to use it anyway, and you're not hurting anything by adding it to it. Forms are pretty amazing. This is kind of just a plain form. You can really get really like large and detailed forms with just a little bit more code. Light just came on. Alerts are fun. So if you think about what it would take to actually have an alert appear and like look good, it would take quite a bit of CSS and a little bit of JavaScript to make that happen. And if you've ever seen like the regular alerts that kind of come down and they're gray, actually, we're going to run off on a side tangent and see if I can make one happen. There you go. So that's just like a basic gross alert, right? So these, obviously they look much better, right? And they're going to go with your page better. So that's just a couple options. There are so many. There's carousels. We'll look at the actual website here in just a second, the actual documentation. Utility classes. So margin and padding, like all of this you're going to do right in your class line, right? None of this is going to be in like a style sheet or anything like that. Let's see. You can specify the margin. You can specify all of this based on screen size. So you can do like I think it's M dash like SM for small dash 6 or whatever. And it's just going to have that margin on the small screen and above, and then change it for each screen size you want it to be. The sizes go from 0 to 5. So if you like, this is like margin top 3. And so each number for their sizes is based on a different standard within Bootstrap, which you can see in the documentation. But for an example, margin top 3 is actually like 1 REM. So you don't have to give it the actual REM or percentage or whatever. You just give it that number that's going to correspond to whatever that is, and it's going to give you that. And then if you need to further, like if 1 through 5 doesn't help you, you need like a 4.5 or whatever, then you can go in there and customize it as needed. Display. So last week we had how we were doing display none and display block for smaller and larger things we wanted to appear on smaller or larger screens. And we had to do like 2 different media queries to make that happen. Not anymore. You can do it right in line in the class. You can do D dash like LG dash none, and it's only going to not display on the larger and above screen. It's going to display on everything else below. So you can specify that just right in the line. Like right here, it says d.medium.block. So this one is not going to show on an extra small or small screen, but it will show on a medium and up just by putting this line in your class. Okay. And then you also do have those Flexbox utilities as well, if you want to use those. So you definitely can justify content center, align items, all of that stuff. Text, you can center your text with just this one little class here. You can bold it. With fonts, you can do font dash bold or font weight dash bold, probably under somewhere. Your borders, you can get rounded edges with just a class. It's just so much really cool stuff you can do. Let's see, we talked about responsiveness. Yeah, if you want to like have your text centered on a small screen, but you want it to be at the beginning on a medium screen, throw that in there. Too easy. And then, okay, so now if there is something specific you wanted to do, you can override the Bootstrap. You have to make sure though, because remember it's cascading style sheets, that in your head you have your CSS below the Bootstrap CSS when you're bringing it in the link, because it's cascades. So the one at the one closer to the element is going to take precedence. So if you had button primary or whatever, and then you wanted to change it to purple, you would need that in your CSS closer to the button in the head. Okay, and it gives you an example here. So this is like how you could override that if you had button primary on a button, which is going to make it blue. You could change it here to your brand purple by just calling that class in your CSS. So basically you're overriding it by doing it that way. We're not going to mess with the variables. I've never used Sass. I'm not sure how it works. I've used variables in CSS, but not like this. I don't think it's super common anymore, especially with like Tailwind and other libraries down the road. So we won't go over that. You can definitely dive into it if you want to. Okay, let's jump into the documentation. So it's get bootstrap.com, I think. Yep. The first page is kind of overwhelming if you've never touched it, because it's got all sorts of stuff going on here. But basically the NPM way we talked about, which you might do later on down the road, and then the CDN parts right here on the side. You could definitely ask chat or whoever, just, hey, how do I throw Bootstrap into my project? They can help you out real quick if you forget where this is at. And then once you get down here, this is just like off the wall, so don't worry about any of that. The coolest part, if we go to the docs and go down to our so starting at forms, you can kind of see the cool form control. So let's jump in there and scroll down. So you can see this is pretty nice looking little form. It's got some curved edges on it. It's got a little checkbox. And so you can literally just grab this code, throw it in your project, and as long as you've brought in the CDN, like you're gonna have that form in 2 seconds. We'll do that in a second. And then it's got so much more. So if we keep going, disable your form. You can add, let's see, you can add selects on there. Ranges are cool. Just so much stuff. Floating labels. I don't know what floating label is. Okay, gotta figure out what that is. I don't know what that is, but it's probably pretty cool. Okay. And then components is really your bread and butter. So this is where you're going to have your buttons. You can have like all these different kinds. And then each one of these also has an inverse of it. So an outline, which I think is here. Yeah. So you can have a very cool looking like outline button instead. The light one you can barely even see. Unless I was on dark mode, then you'd be able to see it. You can have large buttons, small buttons. And this is all with just a little like added class. Just changes that for you. Makes it so easy. You can do custom buttons, of course. Disabled. Accordions are super cool. So you can have this drop down thing. I did figure out the other day that you can actually do accordions in HTML as well, which is kind of neat. But they're not as pretty as this. Like they're just very bland. Badges are kind of cool. You can just have these like badges just sticking out, look like little buttons. Alerts, like we talked about earlier, look way better. Okay. Carousels, very nice. You can have these little sliding deals. Yeah, so a ton of stuff. Navs, modals, use a lot of modals. Modals are the things that pop up. So like this little box pops up, right? Let me close it. Pagination, like doing this by hand, pagination is a challenge. It's a lot of JavaScript. But yeah, it just does it for you right there, and it will like move your page and everything else. Spinners for loading stuff. Those are fun. Toast are really cool. I like toast. So this little thing pops up out of nowhere. Oh, surprise, let me take it away. There we go. Bam, see, right down there. Nice. Cool. And there's so much more, like so much more that I've never even gotten into. But just with what we talked about alone, I mean, you could build really good looking sites, really, and they really functional and sites that make it happen. So let's go back here, see. So this is comparing what you would have to write in CSS versus what you would write in Bootstrap. So this is doing for the card grid, the display flex, and then it's doing the flex wrap, so it'll wrap around. And then it's giving it that gutter of like 1 REM on each side. And then the div within the grid, it's given this flex too, so that the div would sit where it wanted it to sit. So you could do that in Bootstrap by just having your rows and your columns. And just the G is gutter or gap of 3 right there would be that 1 REM. So this would be 3 divs on a extra small and small screen. They're going to be stacked 1, 2, 3. And then on a medium screen, it's going to be 1, 2, and then 3 at the bottom, like we saw earlier. And then on a large screen, there'll be 1, 2, 3, right? Because 4, 8, 12. So if you like writing CSS, you definitely do it this way. It's cool. But with the Bootstrap, but beyond just getting that really cool grid system, you get all of those components and all of that pre-built stuff for you. All right, what's the exercise? Let's see. Okay. All right, questions on that before we get to building? Good. Okay. Let's see. Derek, you want to throw any shade before I get to building?
No, I don't have any problem. I like Bootstrap, but it's just not very compatible with some of the tech I use. So,
Very well. All right. All right, let's get this over here. Da-da-da. Let's make me a new index2.html. Okay. Okay, so we're going to bring it in. So again, we need that CDN link. So I'm just going to go back to Bootstrap and go back to the home page and just grab both of these guys. Let's copy the first one. Where am I at? Put it there. And then the next one, too much stuff open. It's here. So for JavaScript, you want to put it at the very end of your body before the closing body tag. So that'll be in a script tag. And this will be the same as when we're bringing JavaScript into our HTML, like the JavaScript that we write. It'll be the same thing. We'll have a script tag with source, and the source will just point to where our file is. I think I've seen it put in the head before, but it should go down at the bottom. And the reason is because a lot of times your JavaScript, well, all the time, your JavaScript is going to affect your page, and your page needs to load first before your JavaScript does. So that way, if it's trying to like grab an element, but the element's not there yet, it's going to error out. So you want to put it below all of your HTML inside your body. Cool. All right. Now, just like our CSS before, we need to test this to make sure it actually works. So how you can do that is just by bringing in a Bootstrap element and seeing if it actually looks like it's styled like a Bootstrap element. So I'm going to just make a div. And I'm going to say, I am a button. Okay, so if we look at this in our server, Okay, so we have I'm a button, right? It's just a plain div. We didn't give it any class or any style. Okay, obviously it's not a button. So now if we go back to Bootstrap and we go back to docs and we go down to button in our components. And we see here, okay, if we give it class of button, then that should give us a basic like no frill style button. But if we give it class of button and then or BTN and then BTN hyphen primary, we should see this blue button here. So we can grab the class. I'm just gonna grab it right here. And we'll just put that in here. So now we have a blue button, right? So now we know, okay, we're connected to Bootstrap. It's actually working. Now you may notice that they use button here and I use a div. Obviously, I probably should use button because semantic correctness and it is a button. And they also did type button. And no, I don't think so. I was gonna say I think it matters for the form, but I don't think it. I think the on submit is what matters for the form. However, type is good for screen readers and such, so they can go, okay, it's a button. It's not a div disguised as a button, right? So we'll change that just to be correct. As you can see, there is no change. Still just a button. Cool. All right. So if we look back at our guy here, so in order to build this out, it should be pretty simple now, right? Because we have those classes, the rows and everything else. So let's do that while we're sitting here. So we got, let me pull this over here, pull this over here like that. Okay. It's a little bigger. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of the button. We should have an opening div that's gonna be of class container. Okay. And then we're gonna have a div. So if you do div dot and then your class name and then hit tab, it's gonna add the word class equals for you, by the way. That's a shortcut. That's pretty nice to have. So I'll show you. So if I do div dot column dash 12, see how it added it automatically? It's pretty cool. Okay, so this is going to be kind of how you initially set up your page. You're going to have a container surrounding everything, and then you're going to break everything into rows, right? And so in our first row, we're going to have our logo, our title, and then our hamburger button. So let's imagine that the title, like that is spaced out evenly. So this would be like 3 and 3, and then the middle would be 6, right? So that way we have our 12. So we would change this to 3, and then we would have another div dot call, and this would be 6, and then a call of 3. And so this is where the logo is going to go. Just going to put it in here like that for a second. This would be the title of the page. And then this would be that hamburger button. Hamburger. Okay. So again, we have 3. And we're just talking about the smallest page right now. So we have 3 will be here. So it's taking up 3 of that 12. It's taking up 3 spaces, right? And then next to it, we have the title, which is going to take up 6. So the next 6 spaces. And then after that, we're going to have the hamburger button, which is going to take up the remaining 3. So you can imagine the spreadsheet in your head, like how it's breaking up, right? Does that make sense to everybody? All good? Okay. Cool. So if we go ahead and look at this on our page, you can see that it's broken up The title, let me do our deal here so you can see better. So the logo is taking up 3. You see the div call 3 there. Then the title is taking up 6. And since the text isn't center aligned, it's on the left side of that column, right? And then the hamburger button is taking up the rest of the 3. And you notice there's a bunch of space on the right of the hamburger button there. And then there's a bunch of space on the left of the logo. That's what container does for us. It gives us that those kind of area on the outside. So if we change it to container fluid, it should go all the way. So let's go do that real quick. There you go. So now you see it's all, except for its padding, it's going all the way over there to each side. Okay, so depending on how you want your page to look, if you want the extra space, if you want to go all the, cover up all the space, would be whenever you do one of the two of those. But you definitely want container because that is what's gonna, all the other Bootstrap classes are gonna react off of that. So you definitely need that container for your page. Okay, so now let's go. Reform back up. Okay, so let's give it a logo. So here we're going to use an image, right? So if we have an image, I don't think I have an image. I had one. Let's bring a link down here. Okay, so we're going to go our source /link.png. We'll put best dog right there. And then our title, we can do an H1 and Bootstrap page, I guess. And then our hamburger button, we are going to have to actually bring in our nav for that. So right this second, I'm going to put these 3 dashes just so we can see what it looks like. Holy moly, that's a huge image. Okay. So I think we learned this on like day 1. We should definitely give our image some size. So we'll give it a width. I'm going to put it on the end over here though. In case I didn't mention this before, it doesn't matter the order of your attributes, like source, alt, whatever. Doesn't matter what order they go in, just as long as they're in there, like within the brackets. Okay, width equals, let's say 50 pixels just for fun.
You could probably also do like 100%.
Would it put him? Oh yeah, it would put him within his parent, wouldn't it? Let's give it a shot. 100%. Beautiful. Okay. It did make it very tall, but that's okay. So we could make our Bootstrap page look a little better. And we'll do this, we can do this inside here. So notice that even though we're using the Bootstrap classes, we can still come in and then give our custom styling on top of that to say, hey, we want this to happen. So in this instance, actually, so what I want to do is I want to center align Bootstrap page within its parent, right? Within this div. So to do that, I can use my Bootstrap classes of justify content, my Flexbox classes, justify content, and then align items. So if I went back to my code, then I could go right in here, right where my column 6 is, and I can do align items, and justify center. And that should put it in the middle. It didn't like that. Let's see why it did not like that. So let's go back to our documentation and let's look at our spacing. Where are you at? Helpers. So sometimes you just gotta search for it. So let's do align, text alignment, vertical alignment. Let's look at this one. Okay, so we have align items. Oh, and you have to just tell it where. So if we want align items center, align items center. I think I just did align center. Yeah, oh, I just did align items. Didn't even tell it where to align them. Okay. Center. And then let's go ahead and look at the justify content. So let's say justify content. Here we go. So if we want justify content center, then we got to do justify content center like that. Cool. Notice these are in the class though. These aren't in our styles. These are straight up from Bootstrap in the classes. So if I do justify content, content center, that should hopefully still give me what I wanted. Why is that overriding that? Interesting. It's got flex. Center. Oh, I wonder if it's because it's an H1. Doubt it. Let's make it paragraph. Oh. All right. Times like these, we go to our friends in the AI world. Bud, let's talk to you. Why is my H1 not aligning center?
I used text center.
Yeah, so it's say you can definitely use text center. Okay, so it's not a flex container. So I needed to give it that display flex. Okay. So these, even though these are Bootstrap classes, they fall under the Flexbox styling. So we would have to give it a display flex class for those to work that way. And if you wanted to just, center it, you could just do text center as well. So let's see. So if we just did text center, I think that's only going to do it horizontally though, right? Let's see. Yeah, so if I want to do it in the very middle here, then I would need to do the deflex. Deflex, and then I can do align content center, justify content center. Ooh, all my lights went out. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so why did it not go in the middle? Okay, so it looks like it's overriding.
Sorry, you did align content, not align item.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Items, right? Plural. Yeah, there we go. Very nice. Thank you. So when in doubt, check out documentation, ask your AI buddy, have your students correct you, and you'll get it figured out. So good stuff. All right. So now let us quickly get the nav. So let's go back to our documentation, go to our nav bar, and let's just grab, I don't want this one's the kitchen sink nav bar. It's got everything in it. Drop downs, disabled stuff, search box, the whole shebang. A lot. We don't need all that right this second. Let's do just a simple nav. Yeah, this one looks good. We'll do this one. So I'm just going to copy this and back to my code and get rid of that and put our nav in here. Okay, and it's super ugly and it's styling, or not styling, but it's code spacing. Okay. So let's go look at this. So we have this weird looking navbar thing with our button, right? But we have a button. So if we look at our code, we can see all that. So there's a lot of classes in a navbar, right? So you have the basic like navbar. This just gives you the very basic navbar. We're telling it when we want it to expand. So expand on a large screen. And then we're giving it a background body color of tertiary, which is that gray that you see. It's going to have a container similar to our main container, telling it like how, if it wants to have space around it or not. And then in this case, it does have that navbar button, or not button, but anchor tag. So that would like bring us back to our top of our page. But we don't need that for this one in this case. So I'm gonna get rid of that. And that's another good thing. Like you can throw this big, huge navbar in there and just start taking stuff away that you don't want. So we take away that guy. So now we should have our little button, which we do. I don't really want it to have a background, so I'm going to get rid of this background tertiary in here. So now it shouldn't be gray. Okay. And I do want it to be on the right side, right? Because it's weird that it's kind of hanging over here to the left. So we should be able to use float, I believe. But I think it has to be up here. So if we said float, okay, float right. Nope. I think float is a Flexbox one as well. So I think we may have to do D flex and then float right. Oh, all right. For whatever reason that floated it down. Weird. Let's do, so trial and error is a huge part of this as well. But if we do justify, nope. Yep, justify content, right. See if that does it. Oh. Didn't do it. I bet you could do text align. Text align, right. Nope. All right. We got display flex on that. Why did float right not work? Well, anyway, eventually we figure out how to float it right. We only got 8 minutes left. So we have a little nav button right now. As we extend the screen, we'll see that it popped out to a whole nav once we got to large, right? Because that's what we told it to do, is to expand on large. Obviously, that's pretty ugly. We don't want that. So we would push this up and then bring these guys down. And we could do that with our different columns. So we could say on let's see, be in a new row. So let's say we wanted that below our image and stuff. So we could say like column medium 6. And then since this is already column 6, we don't need to tell it again on medium it's going to be 6. We would only tell it if it was going to change. And then on this next one, we'll do a column medium of 12. What that should do for us is what it's doing. So it, on our small screen, okay. So on here, this is our small screen, below 7, whatever the medium screen was. As we get to the medium screen size, notice these two went from 3 and 6 to 6 and 6, and then it moved down our nav. So this nav is now 12. Obviously, we still have a button, so we could probably, instead of our expand, where'd our expand go? Right there. Instead of it being on large, we could expand on medium. So then you're going to see we then have the nav full width on the medium. And so, and I know it's to the left, but you can see here, if we look, our whole row is the whole 12. Okay. Cool. All right. Again, a ton more you can do. If we had more time. Yeah, you can add sections and all this stuff. And then just, yeah, as you're growing your screen, you can just add those different columns and have it pop out in all the sorts of different directions. So again, like every Wednesday, that was a lot really fast. Questions about any of that? Hopefully it makes sort of sense. Cool. Okay. The homework is posted, I think. I posted. I hope I posted it. Let's see. Homework. Yes. No. This is from. Oh, today's Wednesday. You already did the homework. Never mind. The debug and code are posted here, along with the review we just went over. These shouldn't be terribly difficult, I don't think. If you have time and want to get, bust you open a page and get some Bootstrap going, building out some stuff, definitely, more power to you. Saturday, that's what we're going to do. We're going to start over again with Bootstrap and, rebuild our pages that we've built, or build a new page if you want. And that's really the not full circle, but that's like, that is everything for HTML, CSS that we're going to go over. It's a great skill to have, especially for debugging. In this AI age, a lot more of the job, and the job has always been a lot of debugging, obviously, but more and more code is getting spit out a lot faster. So debugging is huge. It's always been huge, but it's like even more huge. So this skill, even though it may seem kind of trivial and AI could throw up a page way faster than I could, like it's a very must-have skill, especially as we go into an age where more code is written by AI and we're the ones that got to fix it. So keep that in mind. Yeah. Anything else? Questions about anything we've went over so far? Hopefully everything's making sense. Cool. Okay. Well, if not, I'll give you 3 minutes back. And I'll talk to you all Saturday. Just again, reach out if you got any questions. What we're here for. That's what we like to do. If not, have a good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.